Today on Sports Central, we're going over an NFL game preview on one of the big games coming up in Week 5 of this 2020 NFL season. That's going to be between the Minnesota Vikings and the Seattle Seahawks. Both of these teams, of course, have had interesting starts to the season. The Seahawks, of course, have been one of the top teams in the entire league. They're sitting undefeated right now at 4-0. Meanwhile, for the Vikings, it's been a bit of a rough start for them. They're also at 1-3. And so, yeah, it's been a bit of a rough start for them. This could be a big game for them to try to turn around their season. So, very important game for both these teams heading into week number 5. And this is also going to be your Sunday night game, so it is definitely one of your biggest games of the week. That being said, let's look at your team trends for both these teams. Last week, Minnesota beat Houston 31-23, and last week, Seattle beat Miami by the same score, 31-23. So both teams beat their opponents by 8. On one hand, the Vikings beat the Texans, and then the Seahawks beat the Dolphins. So both teams really, the Texans this season don't look good at all. All around, just that team has been kind of a mess. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Houston does from here on out, considering they fired Bill O'Brien. And then for the Dolphins, of course, they're not a very good team as well. But yeah, Seattle was able to get it done in the end. It was a bit of a close game, considering how many experts thought it would be. Obviously, Miami is a team that should be beat by more than that, but still, once again, wins a win. As for your winning streaks for both these teams, Minnesota's on a 1-game winning streak after beating Houston, and they're sitting at 1-3. Meanwhile, the Seattle Seahawks once again are 4-0. They're on a 4-game winning streak right now, looking really good and undefeated. Game's gonna be on Sunday, October 11th, so tomorrow at 8:20 p.m. Eastern in Seattle. Spread currently says Seahawks by 7. ESPN FPI also has the Seahawks 65%, and the Vegas prediction has got the Seahawks in a blowout, 36-17 is the prediction there from Vegas, which is a very big surprise. The Seahawks are good, but for them to be predicted to win by almost 20 over a team like the Vikings is kind of a surprise. So obviously that could change a little bit as well over the next day, but still right now it's looking like 36-17 towards the Seahawks. As for your stat comparison here, of course, the points per game are 26.5 for the Vikings, 35.5 for the Seahawks. So all around, the Seahawks have had the better offense so far, averaging 10 more points per game than the Vikings, which is a huge difference there. As for points allowed, Vikings have 31, and the Seahawks have got 27. So the Vikings are a bit higher in that range. They've actually allowed more points per game than the points that they have gotten per game. As for pass yards, Vikings have 221, and then the Seahawks have 321 on average, which that is a huge number, 321 average yards per game, and that's through 4 games from Russell Wilson. So it's not like we're at the beginning of the season anymore. So all around, that's a great number to have, 321 average passing yards per game for the Seahawks. And as for the rushing yards, 150 for the Vikings, 113 for the Seahawks. So it looks like the Vikings and Dalvin Cook, they're more of a rushing team in general, which is expected, obviously, when you've got a great running back like Dalvin Cook. As for yards allowed, Vikings allow 300 pass yards per game. Meanwhile, the Seahawks allow 409 pass yards per game. So the Seahawks pass defense has been really terrible and probably one of the big weak spots so far this season. But then again, the Seahawks have played a lot of pass-heavy teams, so that could be a main factor, considering they only allow 76 rush yards per game. So it looks like they've got a good rushing defense. Meanwhile, for the Vikings, they're a bit more balanced there. They allow 134 rush yards, which isn't terrible, but then again, it's not great by any means. So now looking at your previous games, of course the Vikings have played the Texans. They got a win there, 31-23. However, they lost to the Titans in the previous week, 30-31. Tough loss there. It looked like the Vikings would get a win there, but the Titans got the win there in the end. They also lost to the Colts, 11-28, and that was after losing to the Packers in week number 1, 34-43. As for Seattle, they beat the Dolphins 31-23, also beat the Cowboys 38-31, got a win against the Patriots 35-30, and they also beat the Falcons 38-25. So they've been on a roll. They've been scoring in the 30s for their entire season so far. So Seattle off to a very strong start. And it's not like they've played cupcake teams anyway. They've beaten the Cowboys, they've beaten the Patriots. So all around, not a terrible start to the season for the Seahawks. Some key points. Vikings got their first win last week, so that's good for their team, obviously, against the Texans. The Texans are not a very good team this season, so that is a bit concerning, but still it's a win. So that's a rise in the right direction for the Vikings. As for the Seahawks, they're a top 5 team in the league right now. There's no doubt about that for me. I'd say, you got the Seahawks, you probably have the Chiefs, you got the Ravens, Packers, and then the 5th team, maybe the Saints up there right now. As for the top teams in the league. So the Seahawks, once again, are a team that are definitely looking right now really good. They're among the Bills as well. So all around, yeah, Seahawks have been a really strong team so far this season. Watch out for them. Vikings defense will be a huge X factor here, though there's no doubt about that either. If the Vikings have a good defense and if they're able to stop Russell Wilson and keep him under 300 yards of passing, which no team has really been able to do, that could be huge for the Vikings. And that's probably going to be a big reason why, if the Vikings did win this game, how it would happen. Obviously, I mean, the pass defense is going to need to really rise up for the Vikings. As for the Seahawks, though, you kind of got to do the opposite. You got to go against that Vikings defense, which, I mean, the Vikings have been very vulnerable on the defensive side so far this season. So for the Seahawks, that could be a big positive there. But once again, the Seahawks offense has been looking all around just excellent so far this season. So for the Vikings, once again, defense will be a huge X factor here. The defense has to play well if they're going to be able to stop the Seahawks here. But here's my prediction for this one. I think it's going to be a moderate to a high scoring game. I do think we see a close one, though. I think your halftime score is going to be 17-10. We see the Vikings hang around for the majority of the first half. I'm not sure if we'll see the Vikings lead at all, but I definitely think it's going to be close, and they're just going to be tagging along pretty much the entire way. Final score is going to be 31-17. I've got the Seahawks winning this one. I just think, I mean, the Vikings coming off of a win last week against the Texans. There is a chance that we do see the Vikings pull off a big win here in Seattle. But once again, there's a chance. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. I think the Seahawks in general are just a better team. They've got the better offense. They got Russell Wilson, which I trust a lot more in Russell Wilson than I do with Kirk Cousins right now. And, I mean, the defense for the Seahawks has been looking really good as well, except for the pass defense. So, I mean, obviously they're going to have to stop Adam Thielen here, which shouldn't really be much of a problem, I don't think, for the Seahawks, especially if they can just double team him, considering the Vikings really don't have much as far as the receiving core goes. But still, the Seahawks, I think, get the win here in the end, 31-17. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this game. Obviously, this is one of your bigger ones coming up in Week 5. All around, Week 5 really is not all that big of a week. We don't really have many big matchups, but I'd say this is definitely one of your bigger ones here between Seattle and Minnesota. But once again, thanks for watching, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this one. Let me know your score predictions and all of that. And then again, thanks again for watching. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. I will see you all later.